So really, how old is old? If you ask a 50-year-old person what is old age, he will say old age starts at 60. And if you speak to a 60-year-old, he will say it starts at 70. And if you speak to a 70-year-old, he will say it starts at 80. Essentially, we are all pushing the can down the line, not willing to believe that old age has already started. Whether you have been a Sunil Gavaskar or a Sachin Tendulkar or a Virat Kohli, once you are off the pitch, you have to accept that you will no longer get the same adulation that you used to get when you were on the pitch. I think our scriptures lay out a very good path. They break up our life into 4 different ashrams. There is the early childhood, Balavastha, there is the Grahast ashram, which is your working age, there is Vanaprastha, and there is Sannyas. By the time you reach 60 or retirement age, it is time to move to Vanaprastha. The time you spend with your kids, the time you spend with your spouse, the time you spend with your family, with your friends, you need to make those investments happen. It's when you make those investments, when you need to call upon somebody, that investment is available for you to draw. But if all your life you have not made those investments, and suddenly you call up a friend one day, you will not get a response. And that is really what creates loneliness. So it's extremely important that we keep investing in all these relationships. Hi, this is Harish Tibrewala, and I'm going to talk to you today about aging gracefully. The thoughts I'm going to share with you are basis various books I've read, or people I've heard, or conversations with friends, and I've layered these thoughts with my own learnings. So really, how old is old? If you ask a 50-year-old person what is old age, he will say old age starts at 60. And if you speak to a 60-year-old, he will say it starts at 70. And if you speak to a 70-year-old, he will say it starts at 80. Essentially, we are all pushing the can down the line, not willing to believe that old age has already started. So what really defines old age? Old age is a point of time when your cognitive abilities start declining. Your ability to remember things, your decision-making ability, your planning and execution ability, these start declining. And science shows that old age starts somewhere around the age of 45. 45 is typically when you kind of peak, and give or take 5 years after that, the decline kind of starts, when the setting of old age starts happening. And why does this decline happen? This happens because a part of your brain, which is called as the prefrontal cortex, which is the first to develop in childhood, is actually the first to start also declining as you start aging, resulting in all these kind of situations. However, old age also has an advantage. All of us have 2 kinds of intelligence. One is what we call as a fluid intelligence, other is called as crystallized intelligence. Fluid intelligence is our ability to remember a lot of things, to do quick decisions, to innovate. Whereas crystallized intelligence is our ability to store a lot of knowledge and be able to access it at various points of time. So as we age, by the time you are at the age of 50, the amount of knowledge in your brain or data in your brain is probably equivalent to the amount of books in the Asiatic library, for example. So at that age, you have a lot of knowledge and wisdom available to you, which is why we say that young people are smart and innovative, whereas old people are wise and knowledgeable. So what should one be doing in old age? You should really be focusing on things like mentoring, counseling, philanthropism, and stuff like that, where you can leverage your entire knowledge base and make it available to somebody else. What are some of the challenges that we face in old age? And these challenges come as a result of our various kind of addictions. I think the first addiction is workaholism. A lot of us are workaholic in our active life. You have a full day. Life is a treadmill. There's a daily cycle, and then a weekly cycle, and an annual cycle, and we are all creatures of that habit. But the moment you actively exit a business or workplace or retire, your calendar is completely empty. You get up in the morning and there are no meetings. There is nobody to speak to. There is nowhere to go to. In your active working life, if you are spending 6-7 hours a day talking to someone or talking to various people, now that activity is reduced to 1 hour. So what do you do for the balance time? There are only so many books you can read, or so many movies you can watch, or so much you can travel. So it's very important to find another purpose which allows you to fill that time. So when you exit from your active work, whether by way of retirement or any other kind of exit, is very important to find another purpose where you can land that time into. Whether it be mentoring or starting a new business or a small restaurant, there has to be a sense of purpose. It is not wealth that keeps you going, it is not fame that keeps you going. What sustains life is a sense of purpose. And we require that sense of purpose at every point of time in life. The moment that sense of purpose goes away, the desire to live goes away. So it's extremely important that as we age and we plan a transition, we identify a purpose which will keep us going and then make us active. The other challenge we face is again an addiction to social hierarchy. You know, when you are in an active working life, you have a designation, you have a visiting card. That visiting card or designation allows society to place you in a certain category. You know, you meet someone and you tell the person, I'm the CEO of a 100 crore company. He knows where to slot you in the social hierarchy. Where do you actually remain, right? But imagine you have exited the active work, and now you meet somebody in the lift and he asks you, what are you doing? And you say, I'm retired. I mean, that guy doesn't know where to place you. Where do you stand in the social hierarchy? You can't tell him that my net worth is so and so and I have a flat in Malabar Hill, right? He still thinks you're a retired person. So that sense of loss of identity becomes extremely critical. And that creates a kind of a concern that where is my social hierarchy? How will society recognize me? Where will society place me? And thus it is very important at that age for us to be able to detach from these, what I call as creature connects, which start defining us. We need to realize that my self-worth is not a function of what I do or what this world looks at me as. I should be able to detach myself and be able to assess my self-worth with what kind of life I want to live or what kind of purpose that I want to serve. Another addiction that we build for ourselves during our working lives is addiction to success. For everything there is a benchmark or there is a baseline, and how well we are able to beat the benchmark or that baseline, that distance is what we define as success. If stock markets are going up, how much am I able to beat the index? If stock markets are going down, how much I'm able to fall down less compared to the index? So we keep judging ourselves in terms of benchmark and baseline. And a person who has been extremely successful, actually at the time of retirement, sees that continuous need, that opium for success. You still want success, you still want achievement, you still want those daily recognition, you want people to acknowledge you. And it's very important to get off this addiction of success also. We need to realize that sooner or later, we'll have to draw a line, because there is no end game to this benchmarking. Is 10 better than 5 and is 20 better than 10 and is 30 better than 20? It's an endless game. So you have to arrive at a point in life where you say, this is the line I draw. Whatever I have, whether in terms of wealth, in terms of relationships, in terms of fame and success, I'm happy with it. And now I'm taking my foot off the accelerator. Whether you have been a Sunil Gavaskar or a Sachin Tendulkar or a Virat Kohli, once you are off the pitch, you have to accept that you will no longer get the same adulation that you used to get when you were on the pitch. So how does one get de-addicted to all these different kind of addictions that I spoke about, whether it is workaholism or whether it is addiction to success or addiction to social hierarchy? I think our scriptures lay out a very good path. They break up our life into 4 different ashrams. There is the early childhood, Balavastha, there is the Grahast ashram, which is your working age, there is Vanaprastha, and there is Sannyas. By the time you reach 60 or retirement age, it is time to move to Vanaprastha. Vanaprastha literally means going into the forest. But to me, that's a very literal meaning. The metaphorical meaning is that start looking inward. Do not bother about social benchmarking. Do not be attached to the world around you. Whatever is happening in the world, let it happen. But start doing your own inner search. Start trying to understand who are you, why are you, where are the real relationships. Vanaprastha is not giving up the world. Giving up the world is sannyas ashram. So I don't recommend giving up the world. You have to stay in the world, you have to be a part of this world, but you have to learn to recognize that your social stature, your success is not what's going to define you anymore. Start creating that new identity, start finding that new purpose, start disconnecting yourself from the various things that are happening around you, whether in the world of news or the family, etc. And realize that when you leave this planet, nobody's really going to miss you. It will continue exactly the way it is. So it's time to start actually embracing Vanaprastha at that point of time. what is loneliness or what creates loneliness? Loneliness happens because we don't invest time and energy into relationships. Think of relationship like a bank account. If there is no credit, how will you withdraw money from the bank account? So unless you create those credits, you don't have any money to withdraw. What are those credits? The time you spend with your kids, the time you spend with your spouse, the time you spend with your family, with your friends. You need to make those investments happen. It's when you make those investments, when you need to call upon somebody, that investment is available for you to draw. But if all your life you have not made those investments, and suddenly you call up a friend one day, you will not get a response. And that is really what creates loneliness. So it's extremely important that we keep investing in all these relationships. I have a friend of mine who will call me religiously once every month, and we will have a 20-minute chat. There is no structured agenda. We'll talk about business and politics and economy and travel or whatever it is there. But that monthly conversation keeps reinforcing that relationship. And it's a very nice, cheerful, good conversation, and I feel really good about that 20-30 minute interaction. And I know that if someday I need to call upon this friend for something, I can always do that. Recently, I have started the practice of meeting at least one friend every week, like a physical face-to-face meeting. Whether it's my school friend or college friend or somebody from business, I'll call up somebody and say, let's catch up over lunch or dinner. And the target is that every week I must at least reinforce one more relationship. And that 1 or 2 hours are wonderful hours where you reminisce about various things, and you're talking in an environment where there is no give and take. There is no commercial involved. There is nothing I need to take from him. There is nothing he has to take from me. Becomes a very good conversation. So investing in relationships is one of the biggest investment we can make to be sure that we don't suffer from loneliness. Let me also talk about contribution. Typically you see a group of 5 people, 5 friends go out together, and you'll find one guy who's constantly cribbing. The food was not good, and the flight was not good, and the hotel was not good, but doesn't do any work. Do you think he will get invited again when these friends need to go out? The answer is no. So when you are part of a group, doing something in a group, make yourself useful, make yourself resourceful, contribute if you want to invest in those relationships. So that is very, very important to know. As we age, we also realize that there are different kind of fears that come into our mind. Okay, I think first and foremost is the fear of death. We need to realize that the amount of time that we have on the planet now is definitely less than the amount of time we have already spent on the planet. But very interestingly, our date of death gets determined on the date of our birth. Whether you believe in God or whether you believe in nature, this is absolutely a given thing. So if that date is fixed, why do you worry about it every day? When is it going to happen? You cannot prepone it, you cannot postpone it. The only thing you can hope for is that you have a good departure without a lot of suffering. So one has to put this fear of death completely away from your mind, because we know that death is only one day. But till then, there are all the days that we need to live. The second fear is the fear of sickness in old age. If I fall sick, who will take care of me? Will I be taken care of? We need to realize that the medical technology today is the best that we have had in the last so many centuries. And we also need to appreciate that in India, we seem to have some of the best doctors and the best technology available. If you are in a place like Europe and you wanted to go and see a doctor, you cannot see a doctor of your choice. And you may need to wait for 3 weeks before you get a chance to see a specialist. And you can't get a blood test done just because you feel like doing it. But in India, on demand, every single medical service is available. So we should not fear about medical issues in old age. However, what we need to do is the following. First, we should be sure that we have a very good health insurance policy. I'm surprised to see so many of my friends are totally underinsured. A 10 lakh policy today will not take you anywhere. Okay, depending on your capability and financial situation, you have to look for a 50 lakh or a 75 lakh kind of a policy. And there are so many options available, right from floater policy to top-up policy. So all those kind of policies. So be sure that your health insurance is well provided for. Before you spend money on vacation and clothes and house, be sure you spend money on a good insurance policy. And the second insurance against bad health is to actually have good healthy habits. If you're going to be smoking and doing late nights till 11 every night and not exercising, do not expect that the body will support you. So you need to get into a regime where you are taking care of yourself to be sure that as you age, you continue aging in a healthy fashion. I think the third fear is the fear of money. Is my money enough to last me for the rest of my life, or will that money get over? I think part of this thing comes from our historic culture. I mean, our parents and their parents never had the kind of wealth that we have at our age. So they were always dependent on their children, on society to take care of them, which probably is not true for most of us now. Whatever amount of money we have, I think we can live good, comfortable lives for the rest of our time. There's a study which shows that 60% of our wealth will remain the day we depart Earth. It's going to be lying here. There was a book I read which said that the most expensive real estate in the world is the graveyard, because everybody buried there had so much wealth when they kind of departed. The person who's the richest person is actually a miser, because he will never spend his wealth and all his kids are going to be using up his wealth. So this irrational fear about wealth, I think, is irrational fear. You need to plan for it, but shouldn't become like something which really keeps you worried. It's also very important for us to learn the art of letting go. You know, I mean, you travel in an auto, it doesn't give you 1 rupee change. Why do you need to haggle with that guy for 1 rupee? Or you go to buy a vegetable, why do you need to haggle for 5 rupees, right? When you go to supermarket, you pay exactly what is getting displayed. So this habit of haggling at every stage, negotiating for everything, holding on to grudges and grievances, we need to learn to let go. Maybe you had a fight with a friend, maybe there is something that happened in a family, and now you get a wedding invitation. I mean, you don't need to remember what happened 10 years back and make an issue out of it. That we shouldn't carry our grudges to our grave. It is important that we start learning how to let go of things. When you let go of something, it just makes your mind more peaceful. Keep in mind that when you light a fire in a pot, the pot also burns along with the fire. So if in your mind there is negativity, your mind is also burning because of that negativity. Eliminate that negativity and you start attaining calmness. So it's very important to let go. Talking of negativity, it is very important to keep associating ourselves with positive thoughts and positive people. You read the newspaper in the morning and what do you read? This guy killed that guy and this happened here in this college. Skim those news. Don't get into details of those news. Look for good news. Look for news that gives you positive vibes. If you are meeting somebody and the guy starts complaining about his joint pains and what his daughter-in-law was doing and how his son doesn't take care, move away from that conversation. Go and sit with people who can talk about positive things. So it's very important for us to keep ourselves away from negativity and with things and people who are positive, so our mind remains in a state of positivity. It is also very important for us to allow our children and grandchildren to live the lives that they are living. I mean, I know of people where the son or daughter lives abroad and you start calling up every day, aaj khane mein kya khaya, aaj kidhar gaye the. You can't do that every day. We want to be a part of their lives, but we need to realize that they have a life of their own to live and we need to respect the privacy of their lives. It's okay to call up once a week and have a chat, but it is not okay to keep intruding into their lives on a daily basis. Till some point of time you will get respect, then it becomes an irritation. I know of friends who will keep on looking forward to speaking to grandchildren who live in some other city and ask them to make him sing and make him dance. The grandchild has no interest in doing all that for you. You want to be a part of their lives. They don't necessarily want to reciprocate in that fashion. So we must have the wisdom to be able to draw a line and say that they have their own life to live. Let them live their life. Make it known to them that whenever they need you, you are available at a single phone call. But beyond that, we need to realize that we need to allow them to live their own lives, then trying to be hugely attached to them and trying to intrude into what's happening in their own lives. So one very interesting area of discussion is how do homemakers find a sense of purpose, right? Homemakers have been at home and they've devoted their lives taking care of the spouse and children and managing the house. And now you are hitting that whatever 60 years of life. Are you supposed to continue exactly with the same routine for the rest of the time, or is there something new you need to do? And plus, now you have an additional challenge of the spouse sitting at home. Okay, I mean, spouse goes away to work 10 hours a day, and everybody's in their own space. That guy is doing his own thing, and she's doing her own thing. But now they are sharing the same space at every point of time, which starts resulting in different kind of friction and challenges. So it's extremely important for the couple to have a very detailed conversation and figure out how will they give space to each other. Plus, we need to make her realize that her role as a homemaker is now pretty much done. Kids are settled. Okay, you have reached a retirement age. It's time for her to start enjoying life. All that stuff that she could not do, she should be doing it now. Whether it is travel, whether it is joining some philanthropic organization, whether it's going out with friends, whatever needs to happen. So I think it's equally important for homemakers to realize that their role as a homemaker is now pretty much done. They need to also transit to a stage in life where they can enjoy the fruits of whatever they've done and establish a new equation with the spouse to be sure that both are giving each other space. You know, the joy of living, it's like an intersection. And then I read this in this book which says that I am not here to live my life for you, and you are not here to live your life for me. I want to live my life, you live your life. And there'll be various places where both our lives will intersect and we'll enjoy that together. If you go with that philosophy, you do not feel that spouse is my property and my spouse has to be with me all the time. You realize that we are two individuals with our own motivations. We should live our own lives. There will be plenty of points of intersection that we'll enjoy together.